What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if Wonder Woman still holds up in 2020. So I want to do a review of this movie now. Funny enough, I did do a review of it back in 2017 when this movie came out, June of 2017. I loved it back then. I truly did. I was so shocked and surprised that it was actually a good movie. Remember, that was in the dark days. I think everybody knows that at this point, right? Dark days of DC, and they pulled this one out of their sleeves, and it was like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. And so I was like, all right, well, honestly, I think I watched it 3 or 4 times back then. I don't think I've seen this movie in at least, I'd say, like 2-ish years. I think I watched it like on Blu-ray and DVD when it came out like later, but I don't think I've watched it in at least 2 years. So I wanted to give it a try here really quickly. If you guys do like this kind of stuff, make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you haven't joined our Discord server yet, link for it is in the description below. Loads of amazing people there willing to talk about pretty much anything, and I assume that the people watching this video are more of the diehards. I don't necessarily expect this video to do all that well, but I do think it's a fun topic. So we're only a little while away from Wonder Woman 1984. I believe it comes out this upcoming week in the UK. So if you have theaters out there, you have to go actually see it because you don't have HBO Max, right? And then this movie will come out in just around 2-ish weeks in the United States and everywhere else. Okay, so I'm very, very excited for it. Obviously, we got the early impressions for it, and I want to talk about Wonder Woman. So let's look at this movie. I think it still holds up remarkably well. So to answer the question of this video, does it still hold up? Yes, I think one of the things that stands out is, and it stood out back then, and so a lot of this is going to be like, well, it worked back then. Does it still work on me now? Chris Pine and Gal Gadot are just like a match made in heaven, right? They're such beautiful people, just in general. But no, honestly, they are so good. They're so good together. And one scene in particular that stands out to me is the boat when they're leaving and going basically into I guess the real world, right, that we could kind of call it, and they're having like the longest conversation in the world. In fact, I think I remember even talking about this conversation 3 years ago when I reviewed it and saying like, well, maybe it holds on just a little bit too long, like they keep going. But you know what? I think it works like so well, where it's like Diana is so clueless on like so many things, but then she knows about, like, let's just say pleasure, and we'll leave it there, right? And they just keep going and they're talking about marriage, and it's like, it's such an amazing, I think, moment where it's, and they don't know each other all that much yet, and obviously they become much more connected to each other, and it's really amazing to see that. But just that one scene, I remember being kind of shocked at it when it happened, like in the movie, where it's like, wow, like it's funny, it's also kind of emotional because it's just, I don't know, cool to see these two characters that are very, very different, but they're, the way they're talking to each other. But then it also, they kind of keep the scene going for, like, I don't even know how long the scene goes for, like 3, 4, 5 minutes, which could be a little too long, but it just stands out to me. I don't know. And again, and I think, that was the thing that stood out to me back then. It still stands out to me now. A lot of the things that stood out to me back then still do. Seeing her in the outfit when she's walking out of the trench and like going to attack the Germans on the other side, like seeing that moment is incredible. It really is. It was incredible. I think it's probably better on like the big screen, right? And that is a thing I'm worried about with 1984, that like some of these scenes where they're gonna be like spectacles, or they're gonna be something to be like, no, I don't think necessarily like clapping at, but like you're gonna be like really amazed by it. You're kind of supposed to see it in theaters, you know what I mean? So that's gonna be disappointing, but that's 1984. That still holds up. Her theme, like when she busts through the different windows of like the watchtower, and she's just destroying everybody that stands in her path. I mean, they're incredible. The action in this movie is still really, really good. I do find it funny, and I guess it is nitpicking, but I do find it funny that they're only able to aim where she has armor, right? Especially early on, like when she's fighting the guys in the alleyway that's trying to attack, Steve Trevor. That she's able to block it all with her wrist guards, but they only aim. Like, yes, she's moving them, and I guess when she's running at them, across the trenches, she's technically like moving her body to try and deflect them. But it's just funny that like they're not aiming at any other area, like right below her neck, let's say, or even her neck in general. She doesn't have any armor there, okay? So some of that's funny, but no, I think honestly the action holds up remarkably well. The supporting cast, like all the other, their kind of squad, their mini squad, I think is a really, really good group of people. I really do like it. it's got so much heart, this movie. It really does. You know, and it's a thing that I know how important it is to females too, right? That was something that was obviously really big when it came out, like being, and even Gal Gadot, right? Being able to see somebody like this do so, and again, she is such a perfect choice for Wonder Woman. Again, I think the boat scene or when she's telling Trevor when they leave like the meeting, that like how can they do this kind of stuff, and then when he says like we're gonna go, like I'm still gonna go, I'm just lying, and she's like you're lying, and like just her mannerisms, just the way she kind of speaks, it's perfect. It really, really is perfect. She, I think, really captures what Wonder Woman is supposed to be. She's strong when she needs to be strong, but and then she's got the humor to her. She's got the emotion, and then again, I think the biggest part of this movie is that relationship she builds with Chris Pine, Gal Gadot with Chris Pine. Right? They do such an amazing job. Now, the ending is still just as terrible as it was back then. The reveal, really, I would even say, like, kind of the fight, just the fact that it's just thrown in there just really makes no sense. So that could easily be better done, okay? I don't think that hurts the movie in all. And the thing, too, is, like, when we talk about, and people will say this, like, the ending. They'll say, like, the ending of Wonder Woman is terrible. More like the reveal of Ares is terrible. The Stephen Trevor, like, sacrificing himself, that's still amazing. Because that emotion really is still just as powerful now as it was back then. Now, you know what's going to happen, so maybe that takes away from it. But it's still such an amazing relationship these two characters have, where they do go through things. And that's another thing too. That's something that I was trying to think of when I was watching this movie, is let's put on our film critic hat here, okay? Everybody kind of talk, you look at how movies are supposed to be built, or they, again, like they should be, but they're not always. Rooting for a character that's just perfect at everything and all that, it normally is not a good thing. We see that with something like Captain Marvel, where she's just good at everything, or Rey in Star Wars. Now, I've talked about it before. I like, to an extent, Rey. I love Daisy Ridley's performance as Rey. I think she's really well acted. It's the writing. It's the fact that she really doesn't face any challenges. She's always winning, or she's just always getting more powerful. She's never, she's never tested. She's never losing. And I would even say, like, in the same way Luke is, it's just how Anakin, at least Anakin, who was, those three movies were were, I would say, pretty terrible, and still kind of are. At least he goes through stuff. He's not always winning. In fact, he's kind of always losing. Okay, so, and those are just some examples, obviously, but what's hard is when you have somebody like Wonder Woman. She's able to literally, take a machine gun just to her chest and be fine. She can just put her shield up. She can block everything. She can just jump into watchtowers and destroy everybody. There's nothing you can really do to hurt her. So I was thinking, like, how, are they doing this right? And I do think they are, because of the communication she has with the other characters. The other characters are at risk. It's not really about her in that way, right? Because she really can't be hurt. I guess the Ares fight, like, obviously there's danger in it for her, but for the most part, it's something about bigger than that, right? Because you're also on a clock to save people, millions of people, because of I guess the danger of this, or what they propose as the danger of this movie, right? Basically the gas, and all the bombs and stuff like that. That's the danger. So she can destroy as many people as she wants, and she can take as many bullets as she wants, but it's not really about her. And at the end, she's not the one who sacrifices herself, right? It's a human who actually dies, and there's nothing she can do really in that case to stop that. And that does actually impact her. And I think that is kind of the beauty. And that is, again, that's why when they say the ending is horrible, and I think I even said in this video, right? What I mean is more like the Ares part. The idea that he needs to do this, and there's that emotion, and she needs to, like, let him go, and he does go, and, like, that deeply hurts her, and that stays with her, as we know, even through Justice League, right? And that's powerful. And that is that impact on her, because again, you can't physically hurt her. There's nothing you can do, you know what I mean? Unless you obviously introduce a supernatural element or something that can match her in power, then you can. But for the most part, she's in no danger here. It's everybody else, and I think they do that really, really well. Again, the acting, phenomenal, still is phenomenal. Like we've talked about Gal Gadot and Chris Pine enough, but all of them do such an amazing job. I think the writing is actually really, really good. I think it's shot really, really well. I love the way this movie looks. And remember, this again was back Man of Steel, Justice League was right after this. Justice League, Batman versus Superman. It was so dark. It was so dark and gritty. And this movie does have a little bit of a darker tone to it at times, but it can also be really vibrant and really beautiful at times. And I think even like just by saying vibrant and beautiful, even like her armor, it being like more like bright red, like even something like that, like just seeing that, like yeah, it looks a little gloomy in the trenches and everything's kind of in that grayscale kind of thing. But then when she kind of walks out into it, she's kind of like literally a glowing beacon in all of this stuff that's kind of a darker, like not necessarily boring, but just kind of like a depressing color. But she stands out as like this vibrant force. You know what I mean? So something now that I think was really putting on my film critic hat there. But I love this movie. I really do. The ending is the ending, and it's not good, and they shouldn't have done it. But whatever. I think this movie is phenomenal. It still absolutely holds up now. The emotions I felt then, obviously I don't feel entirely now because you know what's going to happen. I also think him coming back in 1984 hurts it a little bit. But at this, and we, again, like, you know, we can come up with our theories of why and what's going to happen to him in 1984, but I don't think it really affects this movie all that much. I think this movie does a phenomenal job at almost everything it sets out to do. So let me know, guys, in the comments, what do you think? Have you watched this movie recently? Are you excited for 1984? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. Again, I know you guys are probably the diehards. If you guys haven't joined our Discord, we would love to have you. Link for it is in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.